Welcome to the Veroscope report today on Ellen Greenberg, and it's part 4. We've been analysing the case, and there is an update. The federal authorities, the FBI, have issued subpoenas from the US Attorney's Office, and it's been reported in various newspapers and television programs in the Philadelphia area. That the investigation is going to be looking at corruption. The case is about a suicide in 2011, and many people think that it was in fact a homicide, and the initial finding was homicide, but it was changed later, and within a day the crime scene had been cleared up. This is Ellen. She was 27 years old. And this is the man who we're going to be listening today, who makes the 911 call. And he tells us on the 911 call that there is no sign of a break-in. He hasn't looked, but he knows. That Ellen has nothing broken, he hasn't looked, but he knows, and various other indicators which will lead us to conclude, this is the fourth part, that the call is deceptive and that the caller had prior knowledge before the call was made as to the state and condition of Ellen Greenberg, more than you would have when simply observing for the first time and making a 911 call. And so we looked at the forensic linguistic details of that. And we're going to be going through the report today in some fine detail. So we're going to be going a little bit deeper into the actual language versus the frameworks and the patterns. So we listened to the first 60 seconds and we noticed straight away that we saw this pattern of I need, which is in the FBI list of deceptive markers on a 911 call, where the priority is self-priority rather than victim priority. Doesn't necessarily mean that the call is deceptive. It just means that when thousands of deceptive and guilty, inverted commas, 911 calls are studied, the self-priority is quite common. So because of that, we put in a flag. The individual flag itself means nothing, but in goes the flag. We recognize that self-priority is in the call and also at the beginning of the call. And we looked at these, well, I'll go through them very quickly in case you haven't seen parts 1, 2, and 3. He says he can't see anything, but then tells us he can see things and find visual determinations as well. He uses the phrase right now, which was rather strange because it lends itself that if you can see something right now, psychologically you could have seen it before, which is why the brain came out with this phrase. We see vague, I thinks, may haves. So we have an uncertainty baseline being established. We have progressive exclusion where he says, it's my apartment. So he takes ownership of the apartment, but Ellen has only just been killed. So we found that unusual. The operator had to ask him to calm down because we had what looks to be performance of emotion. And as soon as he's told to, in that instant, we get the I'm sorry's and the ability to switch states at will as he performs high anxiety and trauma to calm, doing his job of making this 911 call and the goals that he had set to achieve within it. We have a competence baseline which he's able to return to, and in the frameworks which we looked at, there's dichotomies of this competence baseline. I won't go into it now, it's in parts 2 and 3. We have cognitive evasion, lots of I don't knows, times 3. And this is very common in interviewing deceptive criminals in particular. Don't know is often used. So in goes the flag. These are all flags, by the way. She does. Automatic truth begins production. Conscious monitor kills it. So in other words, people self-censor. So they begin a sentence, but then self-censor because they don't like what they were going to say, and then they begin a new sentence. And that's quite common in deception as well. So in goes the flag. Most of our language is produced unconsciously. Otherwise, if we had to choose every single word consciously, we would stutter, wouldn't we? It would be impossible to naturally talk from the heart or from the unconscious. And we don't know exactly what's going to come out of our mouths. It's very dangerous at times, isn't it? So here we have that self-censorship where the conscious mind recognizes in advance, eek, don't say that. And so the conscious mind takes over. We have executive function coming back on the communication. So sentence abandonment. I'll speed up a little bit, otherwise this will take forever, or 7 or 8 parts. We'll try and finish today if we can. We have timeline stress, I just. We have blood depersonalization. He doesn't attribute blood to Ellen at all. It's blood everywhere. And little urgency. He walks into the scene. He doesn't rush to his fiancee's side. So we found that strange. So let's catch up. Let's listen to the first 60 seconds of the call, which is what we've covered so far, and see how many of these you pick up, even if it's the first time that you've seen forensic linguistic analysis, similar to how the FBI's behavioral analysis unit might perform an analysis. Let's listen and see how many you see, or hear rather.
Help! I need everything out. I just walked to my apartment. My fiance's on the floor with blood everywhere.
What is the address?
4601 Flat Rock Road. Please come. Help.
4601
Flat Rock Road.
Is it the house or apartment?
Oh no. Oh no. It's an apartment. Please hurry, please.
Where is she bleeding from?
I don't know. I can't tell.
No. So you have to calm yourself down in order to get you some help.
I'm sorry. I don't know. I'm looking at her right now. I can't see anything. There's nothing broken. She's bleeding. Ellie!
You don't know where she's bleeding from? Can't see where the blood's coming from?
I think her head. I think she hit her head, I think. But it's everywhere.
Okay,
it's everywhere.
She might have fallen. Do you know what happened?
She may have slipped. There's blood on the table. Her face is a little purple.
Okay, hold on for rescue for her. Stay on the phone. What's wrong?
I went downstairs to go work out. I came back up. The door was latched. My fiance's inside. So it wasn't.
Okay, so he's just said, I went downstairs because a new operator had taken over and he couldn't wait to deliver the alibi. He was preloaded. He was ready to deploy. Now, the previous operator, I believe, says, okay, hold on for rescue, stay on the phone. And then the other operator said something which I couldn't quite catch, and he's immediately into alibi production. Rather than my fiance needs help immediately. Rather than that, what he says, his priority is I went downstairs. So we're seeing cognitive overload where he knows what he wants to do. He knows he wants to achieve the A, B, C, D, E, F, G of his alibi, but he can't quite get it out. Now we do have to also believe the speaker wherever we can. We have to give them the benefit of the doubt. We have to consider other things. And he is under trauma. And we do see patterns in trauma similar in many ways to some deception markers with the stutter, the panic, the genuine trauma. The difference is we see those patterns, but asking for help for her, rather than seeing some of the patterns which are to deliver his alibi. We have minimization again. My, I. Like. So what he's about to tell us as the alibi is only like this. It's not what actually happened. It's kind of like this. Do you see how deceivers and gaslighters will often use kind of? It's like, it's sort of, it's similar to. And very often, because we're all deceiving in some shape or form, we'll find professional interviewers, the investigators, they will use minimization language as well to attempt to trick the suspect. So you'll see that they minimize and just and is it like, is it kind of, and build it, and the investigator might build in the excuses for them to grab hold of the olive branch. So here, just like my I, and then the instruction went downstairs in the building of the alibi. So the operator gives two instructions. Hold on, the next operator comes in. Might have this is probably a mistake of mine. I do apologize. We need to take into account the other operator did ask something. However, there is some of this that does still hold, and that's the alibi building. It was waiting, and it deploys the instant the operator gives him the opportunity to, the new operator. There's a preemptive element to it. The caller doesn't just volunteer his whereabouts, he volunteers his reason for being away. I went downstairs to go work out. We look for unnecessary information in a statement. Very often in deception, we'll see the unnecessary information or the planting of seeds or the preemptive excuses just because they know you're going to ask. In other words, their frame of mind, their guilty frame of mind, is to preempt questions. If you think about the last time you were guilty of something, when you forgot to buy me a birthday present, let's say, and you had to come up with your excuses for why you forgot, you'll be in a frame of mind as you give the excuses. Will I know that you're being deceptive? So, nobody asked why. His brain is answering the investigative question before anyone has thought to ask it. Why weren't you with her? The alibi preempts the accusation. It provides both the absence and the justification for that absence in a single breath. This is not a man remembering what happened. This is a man managing what will be asked. Watch the launch. He says, my like I just my. He has 3 attempts to begin one sentence. My is abandoned in the manner that we discussed just earlier. Like is a processing filler. It's also very often used in fabrications because it's only like, and the brain knows, and the brain is choosing these words out of the tens of thousands that are in his personal dictionary to choose from. It's him that's choosing them. All we're doing is listening very carefully. That's all we're doing. Active listening. And sometimes linguistic empathy, so that we begin to understand why they're using these words. And we hear the I just, the temporal minimizer, returns. My is abandoned again. So we've got genuine episodic memory flows. You remember what happened, the words emerge in experiential order, but the narrative construction stutters because you're building in real time. You're selecting where to start, what to include. You can't make a mistake. You know the entire truth. You've got to manage their reaction as you give the falsehoods. It's difficult. It's very difficult to make a genuine 911 call that's false. Try it. And you'll see these sorts of patterns appear. My, like, I just, my. The false starts are the debris of construction. That's the pattern which we see in the construction of a fabrication. He then says, I went downstairs. The departure, I, that's the sole agent. So he gets some success. He managed to get it out. But there were 3 false starts. I, so that's good. We note that he's present in the statement. Went downstairs, away from the victim. The alibi foundation is physical separation. What's important, don't forget, this is the first time that he's spoken to this new operator. What's important to them, their priority, is important to us. Do you see? His priority is separation from the victim and minimizing, and his priority is me. I was somewhere else, he's telling us. Notice the pronoun here, I. So he's capable of using I where it suits him. So we'll keep a lookout for where does he drop the I later on, perhaps. Now, once he has kicked the door down, he was yelling outside the door, he tells us, and he kicks the door in. And I suspect that after the murder, rather than a suicide, there was a time period, because the caller is always trying to manipulate time in some way. So notice he says here, I went downstairs to go work out. And notice in his language here, he hasn't said that he did work out. He only says to go. So we look at this passivity in the language. Very often in deception, what they want you to do is complete this information, this sentence. The deceiver, the gaslighter, wants you to change what they're not prepared to say. And they want you in your own mind to now change what they weren't prepared to actually say, because people don't like to lie by outright barefaced lies or by commission. They avoid it wherever possible. So he wants you to believe that he had a workout, but he didn't. He went downstairs to go work out, completely different linguistically. And I suspect this time was the time between the murder and getting his ducks in a row. I suspect he would use it for planning and for calling for help, but not a 911 call. So, let's not get hung up on what we call each of these words. It's better to see the pattern than to be able to confuse someone by saying, it's the infinitive, purpose clause, etc. But, if you want to learn that stuff, you're more than welcome to, but I'd much prefer to recognize the pattern correctly rather than get these wrong, because they're not actually important to know or remember them or be tested on them. What's important is you get this. You get the pattern. He hasn't said he's worked out. It's passive. It's not when I finished. The brain has selected intention language. I went downstairs for the purpose of working out rather than completion language. I did work out, or I worked out, or I had a workout. The distinction is foundational. People describe experiences, not intentions, when recalling real events. If you actually worked out, your brain has memory of that workout, the exertion, the equipment, the duration, good or bad. The memory produces completion language automatically from the unconscious. To go work out produces only the purpose, a stated reason, not an actual lived event. Let's carry on.
She wasn't answering, so after about a half hour, I decided to break it down. I see her now just on the floor with blood. Like she's not responding.
Okay, is she breathing? Look at her chest. I need you to calm down. I need you to look at her chest. It's really.
I really don't think she is.
Listen to. Okay, is she breathing?
Okay, let's listen to that again.
I went downstairs to go work out. I came back up. The door was latched. My fiance's inside. She wasn't answering. So after about a half hour, I decided to break it down. I see her now just on the floor with blood. Like she's not responding.
Okay, let's listen. So he said, I went downstairs to go work out. I came back up. So we slow down. This is important. We need to actively listen to everything. I came back up. So we've got return movement. But between departure, I went downstairs, and return, I came back up. The only content is a stated purpose, to go work out, with zero experiential detail. The alibi structure is left, intended to do something, returned. So there's no real middle. Do you see? And that's because when we lie, we don't like to spend too much time in the lie. A truthful statement might be 25% preamble, 50% what actually happened, and 25% what happened afterwards. But very often in a lie, we get brrr, brrr, and that's it. No beginning, hardly any middle, and hardly any end. They want to get the hell out of Dodge, where the deception is. And they want to get rid of the time period where he's probably, texting, Googling, calling, panicking, thinking, pacing. This all gets, I went downstairs to go work out, I came back up. It's empty. Truth very often has color, temperature, noises, emotions, reality, colorful truth, and it's recognizable. Falsehoods, lying, deception, it's black and white. It's soulless almost. It has its own accent, its own look, its own feel. And you quickly, even with just 4 or 5 videos watching how Veriscope looks at the deception in statements, very quickly you'll be able to look at your own emails and your own texts and WhatsApps and communications and see things that you haven't seen before. It really will change the way that you are able to see detailed communication that you were missing before because it was going over your head. That's what happens. It does. Unless you're not human, unless you're a machine. 9/10 of communication, from body language to the words which are used, goes over our heads because our brains aren't able to filter all of this information and do all the other jobs that it has. So we sift, we get the gist, we understand the meaning, and very often you'll see people turn off and stop listening because they've got it. But they're not getting the extra information you're giving them. They've turned off and they're constructing their reply. So most of the data is missed unless we slow down and really think. The door. I came back up. The door was latched. So remember what's important to him. What's important to him so far is not Ellen, just his alibi. It's not important to save Ellen's life if that's possible on the emergency call. It's not important for you to tell the emergency operator the state of the locks on your door, is it? And yet he chose to do so. The door was latched. And this is the first mention of any door in the entire call. There's no prior reference. The operator's not been told about a door. We won't go into too much detail on articles now because he knows the door. So it is correct to use this article. But very often deceivers will choose the incorrect article if it's the first time that they've seen something. Was latched is passive. She wasn't answering. The door was latched. My fiance's inside. It wasn't. She wasn't answering. Let's just listen to that.
Okay, is she breathing?
About a half hour, I decided to break it down. I see her, my fiance's inside. She wasn't answering. So after about a half hour, I decided to break it down. I see her now just on the floor with blood. She's not responding.
Okay. She wasn't answering. Have you noticed that he very rarely calls her by her name unless it's the pantomime Ellie, which is not for her. She's dead. It's performance pantomime for the listener and not necessarily the 911 operator, but for us, for the police, for the investigators. He knows people are going to be listening to the emergency call and analyzing it. But he can't use her name otherwise. Ellen, has become she, or my fiance. And we find in guilty calls and guilty people their inability to name their victim and their loved one is consistent. It's very common. So we note he is unable to use Ellen's name. And Ellen also appears as body positions on the floor. There's victim blaming. But let's stay where we are in the analysis. I think we can attribute that the not answering is more subtle victim blaming. She wasn't answering, so after about a half hour, I decided to break it down. After about a half hour, so we've got 5 words to cover 30 minutes of time. And inside those 30 minutes, nothing. We call this a temporal lacunae, or lacuna. In other words, missing time. If we were marking up the document in the traditional way with a highlighter pen, we would mark this in green. Time, anything to do with time, I mark in green highlighter pen. After about a half hour. So we don't get to hear about the knocking, the screaming, the yelling, and the argument. We don't really get detail of calling her name, calling her phone, texting, trying a key, asking a neighbor. Now, I understand afterwards, as part of his alibi construction, he had to go through a pantomime with building security and retrospectively try to make up for these mistakes. But I understand that nobody actually saw him break down the door. Of course, that couldn't happen, could it? So he's had to get half of an alibi with somebody else proving that he saw the door was locked, but they can't actually be there because otherwise they'd see that she's still alive. Difficult to do. So as the case knowledge evolves, and do please put in the comments more case knowledge to do with this, somehow he would have had to have got, either the rumor, or I attempted to, or I asked but he couldn't come. Somehow he has to be alone at the murder scene. After about half an hour, it's just not credible. Nothing happens. There's no description of the half an hour really, apart from I was yelling and she wasn't answering. That's impossible. Especially if you're genuinely worried about somebody. We don't get any of that, it's gone to voicemail, terror's building. My God, what's happening? Or has she just gone out and she'll be back later? And somehow the latch has fallen. Do I need to call a locksmith rather than damage the door? Nothing. Do you see the problem? I decided to break it down, he says. Decided, not had to. Do you see there's a problem with the emergency here? This is debate. Shall I kick the door in? Not sure. Maybe I'll give it another 10 minutes. But we're not getting that. Not couldn't wait anymore. Decided. It's the language of calm deliberation. This isn't my fiance isn't answering. Something must have happened to her. Perhaps there's a murderer in there. I better kick the door in. But then as soon as he does, and he's not had time to look in the property, he's convinced that there's been no break-in elsewhere and there's no killer in the house. Hasn't bothered to look. But his Fiance's stabbed 20 times with a knife sticking out of her heart and blood everywhere. He has made so many errors that he just didn't think to cover off how on earth this has been called a suicide just from the 911 call, let alone the forensics, which I'm sure they have from the autopsy, where many of these 20 stab wounds, probably with the same knife that she was using to make the fruit salad. And it had a serrated edge, apparently, and some of the wounds are tortuous rather than deadly, and are more slash orientated than stab orientated. So, in other words, designed to hurt. It's not credible. She's 27. She probably just wanted to leave him and latch the door because he's yelling and banging outside. He admits to yelling and he admits to kicking the door in. I decided to break it down. And then he says, I see her now just on the floor with blood. So the alibi narrative is told in the past tense. I decided to break it down. I went downstairs. I came back up. The door was latched. I decided. He speaks in the past tense, but suddenly I see her now. Just minimization on the floor with blood, not her own again. I see her now. Do you see the problem? When recalling genuine past events, tense remains consistent. The brain retrieves the episodic memory in the temporal frame it was experienced. I see her now, just on the floor. So it's important for his unconscious to tell us that he's only seeing her now for the first time. I see her now. And we have a tense change. Doesn't say I saw her. Now, to be fair, he is also looking at her now on the phone. But there's a time, there's missing time where he would have seen her. So what we do is we note the tense change from past to present, and here is where it occurs. When constructing a narrative, the brain occasionally loses track of its own fictional temporal frame and slips into the present because the brain is making it up in the present. Because the construction is happening now, even though the claimed events were then. And the tense error is very common, by the way. Train your unconscious to pick it up at conversational speed, and it turns your radar on to pay attention, so that you don't go through life always paying attention to every bloody word that everyone bloody says. It would drive you nuts. But the radar can be set to immediately spring when you see a mistake, hear a mistake. Well, not necessarily a mistake, but you hear a principle violation. And then your ear picks up and you begin to listen more intently because you know what follows is likely to be important. I see her now as the brain building a story in real time, momentarily forgetting to maintain the past tense frame it's been sustaining. She's not responding. I see her now on the floor with blood. She's not responding. So the alibi ends as it began, with the stuttering frame. The same cognitive stress that produced my like I just my at the launch of the alibi now produces she's not at the close. The stuttering bookends. It confirms the entire sequence was produced under construction pressure, not recall fluency. And the alibi closes on Ellen in the same mode she appeared throughout, as a negative state. She's not responding. Not answering, not cooperating. The complete alibi architecture is now visible. So, unsolicited, delivered in approximately 12 seconds, it contains 7 independent failure points. Unsolicited delivery. Nobody wants to know that you've gone to the gym. Your fiance's dying. It's not important. It's only there because it's important to you, the caller, for alibi preloaded before the operator asked, before anyone asked. Triple false start. My, like, I just my. The construction debris. He's been planning it for the last half an hour. Now he's got to make the call. My, like, I just my. He has intention without completion to go work out. The workout never happened. We have, don't worry about the article violation. Revealing rehearsal, this is incorrect. It would be true in other cases or circumstances where article violations are worth noting, but not in this case. We have composure leak, decided, where desperation is expected, and we see the tense change is more accurate. I see her now. So we have the present tense in the past tense narrative reveals the real-time construction and where that occurred. The alibi was built before the call. It was rehearsed internally. It was deployed the instant the opportunity arose, and it failed at every linguistic structural point. My, like, I just my. Let's carry on.
Okay, is she breathing? Look at her chest. I need you to calm down, and I need you to look at her chest. It's really.
I don't think she. I really don't think she is.
Listen to me. Someone's on the way. Look at her chest. Is she flat on her back?
She's on her back. So I bring her.
Look at her chest and tell me if it's going up and down, up and down.
I don't see her moving.
Okay. Do you know how to do CPR?
I don't.
Okay, I can tell you what to do. Okay, until they get there. I want you to keep her flat on her.
God.
Hello.
Yeah, hi, okay.
Are you willing to do CPR with me over the phone so they can...
I have to, right?
Okay, so get her flat on her back.
Okay, so her shirt won't come off. We've got CPR resistance. I really don't think she is. The operator asked, okay, is she breathing? It's really, I really don't think she is. So notice the self-censorship again. It's a real binary question. It's yes or no. In terms of the framework, we always have this hedging and speculating and uncertain on everything. But it inverts completely at the knife discovery. I don't see her moving. This was a strange part of the call, wasn't it? Hello? Yeah, hi, okay. This is ingratiation, which is one of the FBI indicators. I have to, right? This is his fiance. He doesn't even want to give CPR because he knows she's dead. And in my opinion, knows that he's put a knife in her heart and it's sticking out. And he laughs when he says he hasn't removed it yet with duper's delight. We'll come on to that shortly. So the I pattern, the pronoun stuttering, I need, I just, I. The brain seizes at I because the action about to follow has maximum stress. He's seeking permission not to have to. I'm try not. Listen, you can't freak out, sir. I'm try not. Let's listen on.
Bare her chest, okay? You want to rip her shirt off, okay? Kneel down by her side.
Oh my God, Allie, please.
Listen, you can't freak out, sir.
Okay, I'm trying not. Her shirt won't come off. It's a zipper. Oh my God, she stabbed herself.
Where?
She fell on a knife. Oh no, her knife's sticking out.
What?
There's a knife sticking out of her heart.
Oh, she stabbed herself?
I guess so. I don't know where she fell on it. I don't know.
Okay, well, don't touch it.
Okay, so I just let her here now. I mean, what do I do?
No, I mean, you can't. If the knife is in her chest, it's going to be kind of hard for you to do CPR at this time.
Oh no. Oh my goodness. Okay.
Police the shop reader. Just up.
Okay, so picture the scene. He is worried about his fiance. This half an hour, which he won't tell us about, apart from yelling outside the door, he decided to kick it in. And now he sees his fiancée with 20 stab wounds, blood everywhere, blood on the table. Looks like she slipped. In other words, literally, complete shambles in there with blood everywhere, he tells us. Then he tells us that he can't quite get the zipper, so her clothing becomes passive. It's the clothes' fault. Subtle victim blaming everywhere, by the way. And somehow she stabbed herself in the heart after stabbing herself 19 other times, some of which were fatal, by the way, some of which were behind her and behind her head, and with different angles, which would be extremely difficult to do with the fruit salad knife yourself. And he would have us believe that she then did her shirt up or her zipped up jacket thing, whatever it was, and did it up and then hid the knife sticking out of her chest so that he could discover it for the first time and say, she stabbed herself. Now, this man hasn't checked anywhere else for a break-in. He hasn't checked if there's a killer behind the bathroom curtain, standing in the bath. He's not checked the other rooms. He's not checked in the wardrobes, under the bed. His fiancée, to most people, it would look like there's been an absolute murder. But no, not him. He is alibi orientated. For 90 seconds, the caller established a consistent pattern, uncertainty on all observations, didn't he? I mean, this guy couldn't see a thing. He couldn't make any kind of genuine observation. The entire framework was vague, apart from the very safe things like his address. and what he did and where he went and the condition of the door. All of that, no problem. But the other observations, minimal. I don't know. I can't tell. I can't see anything. I think her head. She may have slipped. I don't think she is. I don't see her moving. Speculation, hedging, uncertainty. It's applied to every question about what he sees. This baseline has been documented across all of the sections. It exists. It is established. Now watch what happens to it. She stabbed herself. Absolute conclusion. This is construction. Deceivers, when there's 100 possibilities, they will pick the one that suits their alibi and tell you to your face the other 99 are impossible. She's been kidnapped, as an example. Any other possibility, like she's walked off, she's gone off, all completely ignored. The absolute commitment to a single explanation is a deceptive marker in its own right. And here we have an example. She stabbed herself. So it breaks all sorts of principles of statement analysis, and in particular the pattern violation and the baseline change. And what's important is, where does it change suddenly? Surprise, surprise, where it's most important to the caller. Isn't that interesting? Where is the sudden change from this pattern? Here, where it's vital for this to be established. He is happy to do a complete pattern change. Oh my God, she stabbed herself, he says. Three words. A complete causal conclusion. We also have she. Did you note that? The inability to say Ellen's name. He selects a violent verb. And herself, so she and herself, there's maximum agency assigned back to the victim. More victim blaming. Incredible percentage-wise, the amount of victim blaming. These two were arguing it's her fault. Do you see? If you get linguistic empathy, everything's her fault. And it's coming out in the language. It's coming out in the yelling outside the door. In very few words, he determines who did it, what they did, and to whom. In other words, she did it. She stabbed herself. And this is all concluded in an instant. The complete causation. Case closed. No questions asked. What happened to her? Who did this? No fear that the killer's behind the shower curtain. Not possible. It's completely absent. This is a pre-planned narrative alibi. No alternative explanations are considered. There's no shock, no confusion, no processing time. She stabbed herself. Conclusive. End of case. Clear up the crime scene and pray. And that's what happened. But the case has now been reopened. Who placed the knife there and how? He has no problem assigning that she did it. Impossible. And also the pattern inversion. Uncertain on the simple, certain on the impossible. Let's read that again. He has a pattern inversion and it's complete. And if you go back to part 1 where we look at the frameworks, you can see that the overall framework which sits on top of it all, he is uncertain on the simple and he is certain on the impossible. You cannot spend 90 seconds unable to identify the obvious bleeding sources from 20 stab wounds and then determine in 2 seconds that a person stabbed themselves when the most obvious conclusion to come to, if you come across your fiancée with 20 stab wounds, dead with a knife sticking out of her heart, is somebody else here? You would be grabbing a weapon immediately. And you would be going through that apartment with that weapon. And then you'd be immediately back to your wife. She is dead. But he is only interested in his alibi. It's just the two of them there. And he tells us there has been no break-in and it is just the two of them there. That slips out. Well done, the operator. Let's carry on.
Is someone coming here?
Yes, they are. You said 4601 Flat Rock, right?
Yes.
Okay, someone's on the way. And the knife is still inside?
Wait, so what?
The knife is still inside of her?
Yes, I didn't take it out.
Was it her chest or what area?
It's in her chest. It looks like it's right in her heart.
Okay, someone's on the way out there. Okay, just get.
Oh my God!
How old is she?
She's 27.
27. And there's no sign of life at all?
No, please don't be. What?
Then turn to her arm and tell me if she responds to pain.
Okay, so we also got she fell on a knife. So he's unable to stick to with she stabbed herself. He then begins to minimize with she fell on a knife 20 times. It's ridiculous. The operator asks where. It's a location question. The caller answers with how, not where. He didn't answer the question because the question isn't where his cognitive stress lives. The question of how this happened is where his brain is processing. His priority is to impart how this happened, not where. Her knife sticking out. Notice it becomes her knife. The knife belongs to Ellen. Is this the knife she was making the fruit salad with? Is this a knife that she used perhaps initially after this man has kicked the door in after the argument and they're yelling at each other? Did she still have the knife on her? Did he take the knife from her? Is that why it's her knife? Is that why we have this amount of victim blaming? She stabbed herself. If it's her knife, then she had access to it, then she could have used it on herself, is his point. Ownership assignment is a narrative construction, not observation per se. She killed herself. She stabbed herself. Her knife. We have the continuation of victim blaming, even if it's very subtle. It's everywhere. There's a knife in her chest. But no, it's her knife in her heart. And she's... So do you see, there's a real problem here. There's a knife sticking out of her heart. Not her chest, not her torso, not her body, her heart. So there's all sorts of emotions here, isn't there? His fiancée, and there's a knife in her heart. The caller identifies the target organ with precision. And of course, the last blow to the hilt, that knife. And in my opinion, he put that knife in her heart. It looks like the operator even gives him a lifeline. Is it her chest or what area is it? It's offered to him. He says it's right in her heart. Right in. This is the language of someone who's done it. It's emphatic, it's specific, it's certain. He doesn't retreat given the second opportunity. He doubles down, he intensifies it. I guess so. So we have certainty collapse. Oh, she stabbed herself, the operator says. I can't. Self-censorship. I guess so. Self-censorship. I don't know. Where she fell on it, I don't know. So we have certainty collapse and then slight recovery to push the narrative, because he's not happy with his narrative is collapsing. He needs to resell, and then he recollapses. Let's carry on.
Ellie! She's not, her arms, her hands are still warm. I don't know what that means, but there's blood everywhere. I mean...
I know, but you can't, and the knife is still inside of her. How far? Can you see how far it went in?
It looks pretty deep.
Okay.
It looks it's a long knife.
Don't touch anything. Yeah, don't touch anything, okay?
I'm not touching anything. I can't believe this stuff.
So wait, it was just you there with her?
We're the only ones here.
And she ran in the door, you said latched it shut?
No, I went downstairs to work out, and when I came back up, the door was latched.
Oh.
Like, it was, it wasn't like, it was like locked from the inside, and I'm yelling, so I'm
was
yelling.
Was the house broken into?
No.
So there's no sign of a break-in?
No sign of a break-in at all. I mean, there will be when you get here, because I had to break the latch, but to get in.
Okay, 46.
Okay, so let's just complete this analysis today. And he said her hands were still warm, but also notice that he laughed when he said he hasn't taken her knife out of the heart previously, which we covered in part 3, so we won't go over it again. But that duper's delight, that little bit of chuckling to himself, was very concerning. Still warm. Remember Peterson in his 911 call, the staircase case? He used still breathing. Still is one of those words that tell us time. So we would mark it in green. Time has occurred. Previous time, still warm, has occurred. And previous time has been observed. Her hands are still warm. He's sensitive about time, and he's sensitive about the time since the murder and the call to 911. So his priority is telling us that her hands are still warm, but he doesn't know what that means. But he knows why he's telling us. It's alibi construction. Okay, thank you. At the end of the call, it's unusual to have ingratiation and politeness on a genuine emergency call where you've been suffering trauma. However, many people are, so it's only a flag. And the flags add up and become clusters and superclusters. We will sometimes see in missing persons cases that they thank the police on day 2, but the person's still missing. They're ingratiating. It's unusual. It's normally a sign of guilt. So the hands are still warm. And we had that right now mechanism, didn't we? It's unnecessary language. It looks pretty deep. It's a long knife. He knows the knife. He knows its length. But it's against his normal pattern. And then at the end, I can't believe. The delayed disbelief. He's delivered his alibi. Okay, so let's move on to some of the patterns which we saw, the stutter geography. So as an example, where do we see the stuttering? It's I need, I just, she may have slipped. And notice that real-time construction, where he hasn't necessarily pre-planned the call, we have the stuttering. On the table, my like I just my. She's not responding. I have to write. I'm try not. It's like it looks like it's like. Oh, that's a good one. It's like it looks like it looks like. I went, oh dear. I forgot about this 3 pattern. I went downstairs. Alibi retelling. And then fluent, address, it's an apartment, she's 27. Observable reality, i.e. true in the moment, we don't have the stutter pattern. It's true, and it's true in the moment. And known facts that are true, we see no stutter pattern. And in the pre-planned narrative, in other words, fully rehearsed before the call, she stabbed herself, locked from the inside. We don't see the stutter pattern. So what this means is where perhaps the operator moves him off his constructed or true when the operator moves him off areas where he's now forced to make it up on the hoof, we see a stutter pattern, and where it's true or he's rehearsed it, we don't get the stutter. Does that make sense? So what stutters was built in the moment, what flows was resolved before it. So she stabs herself, pre-planned in the alibi construction, no stutter. She may have slipped, double stutter, may have hedging. This is real-time construction. There's a knife sticking out of her heart. You can actually see it, it's observable. We'll look at this opening linguistic error through cognitive overload probably another time when we have better audio. But it's obviously concerning. Very often at the beginning of a call under trauma, what's on the tip of your tongue can often be said by mistake. I didn't take it out. This is referring to the knife, defending against what nobody accused, and then his chuckle afterwards. But Duper's delight. Slipped over fallen. He's steering towards self-causation. Do you see? It's very subtle. It's very subtle victim blaming. It's her fault. But because his brain is determined to sell, excuse me, the narrative of suicide, everything goes along with his pre-planned narrative at the unconscious level. Even word selections like this, out of his personal dictionary of perhaps 30 or 40,000 words, every word steers towards this self-causation. Isn't that unusual? Everything. God is often called upon in times of trouble, and it's a good thing to do, prayer, but it is also often used by those who are trying to deceive. And we saw some of the abandonments and self-censorship patterns as well. Well, I think that really brings us to the end of the Veroscope report. I might go into more detail later as the case develops. Or if there is anyone in the comments who particularly wants a certain communication analysed in more detail, I would be very happy to do so. I think then that brings us to the end of today's Veroscope. I'll run through very quickly this for those who want to pause the video and read. Notice no reliable denials. This is more research rather than the analysis which we've already done, but it's worth looking at. You see the collapse from the confident she stabbed herself to when challenged, his confidence in his narrative begins to fall. Yeah, we noticed that, didn't we? The increasing precision as he gets closer to the narrative that he wants to sell. We have a principle in statement analysis where we ask, are they trying to convince us rather than convey information to us? And I felt that there was convincing language in the call, mainly around his alibi. Okay, so, and then if you want to go and have a look at some of the earlier videos, it's more about frameworks and pattern splits, etc. So, thank you so much. If you have come to the end of the report, I am very grateful that you've stayed with it this far. If you've watched all four, even more so. And I would very much appreciate if you have the opportunity of sharing on social media, X, Reddit, Facebook, or YouTube. And do feel free to use clips or lengthy analysis of the analysis. You're more than welcome. I think the more people that are aware of the case and are aware of the deception patterns, then the more call for justice can be heard. Okay, I look forward to chat with you in the comments. And do put in the comments, by the way, any other case recommendations. Although this has gone off topic for Veriscope, we've concentrated on the Karen Reed and Jen Soto and Wendy Adelson cases more. So it hasn't had many views at all, but it's been a fascinating and interesting and very worthwhile for justice case to investigate and to give a report on. So thank you to those who have recommended doing a Veriscope report for Ellen. And if you would like new cases, do remind me. I do take a note, but it is also useful to be reminded. And it gives me a feeling for how many people are interested in a report. And we had about 7 or 8 ask for this on Ellen. So again, thank you for the support. Thank you for subscriptions. Thank you for liking. Thank you for sharing. And please do comment. I read all the comments and I try to reply to as many as I can. So I look forward to chatting there. Okay, enjoy the rest of the day.